Chosen one. Have you ever wondered why you're still breathing after storms that should have buried you 6 feet under? Why you're still standing when others with half your battles gave up and walked away? Why God kept you alive through nights so dark you couldn't even see your own hands in front of your face? Here's a truth that will shake you to your core. You didn't survive by accident. Listen to me. Chosen one, you didn't stumble onto this message on the 2nd of September because the algorithm picked you. You're here because the creator of the universe, the same God who spoke galaxies into existence, waited for this exact moment to tell you everything you've been dying to know. Every tear you cried alone counted. Every night you collapsed on your knees, too exhausted to even form words, heard. Every time you whispered, God, are you there? Into the darkness. Answered. Don't you dare scroll away. Don't let doubt steal what heaven has been orchestrating your entire life to hear. This isn't just another inspirational message. This is your divine appointment. Right here, right now, the 2nd of September. God has been watching you fight battles no one else could see. He's watched you carry weights that would crush most people. And now, He's ready to tell you why. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single soul who has supported this sacred work through Super Thanks. Your generosity isn't just a donation. You're sowing seeds of light into hearts drowning in darkness. You're helping spread hope to warriors who feel forgotten in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful you're here. Your presence matters, your story matters, you matter. But right now, I need you to do something. I need you to declare what your spirit already knows. Type in the comments, I am chosen. Don't think about it. Don't hesitate. Let the world know your spirit is awakening to a truth that will change everything. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie the enemy whispered in your darkest hour. You're about to discover why you had to walk through hell to get to your heaven. You're about to understand why God protected you when protection didn't make sense. The waiting is over, the test is complete, and God Almighty is about to tell you everything. Are you ready? Type, I am chosen, if your soul is stirring right now. Let's begin. Why do you think some people crumble under pressure that barely touches others, yet you've been forged in fires that would melt steel? Why does your heart keep beating through losses that should have stopped it cold? Why are you still here when every logical reason said you should have given up years ago? Dear chosen one, let me tell you something that will revolutionize how you see your entire journey. What you've been calling your struggle, heaven has been calling your preparation. What you've been calling your setback, God has been calling your setup. What you've been calling your breaking point, the Almighty has been calling your breakthrough moment. You see, transformation doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare like Hollywood taught you to expect. Real transformation moves like morning mist, silent, invisible, but absolutely unstoppable. It works in the shadows while you're sleeping, in the quiet while you're weeping, in the stillness while you're healing. Think about a seed buried 6 feet under the earth. To the naked eye, it looks dead, forgotten, useless. But beneath that cold, dark soil, something miraculous is happening. The seed is dying to what it was, so it can become what it's destined to be. The darkness isn't its prison, it's its incubator. The pressure isn't crushing it, it's creating it. That's been you, beloved. Buried, hidden, pressed on every side. But heaven wasn't punishing you. Heaven was preparing you. Scripture tells us in John 12:24, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Your pain wasn't pointless. Your tears weren't wasted. Your struggles weren't random. They were the dark soil where your miracle was growing roots. But here's where it gets controversial, and I need you to hear this with your whole heart. When you prayed for strength, what happened? Life threw you a situation that demanded every ounce of strength you didn't know you had. When you prayed for patience, what arrived? Circumstances that tested your patience to the breaking point. When you prayed for faith, what showed up? Situations where faith was your only option. This isn't God being cruel. This is God being comprehensive. He doesn't give you a diploma without the education. He doesn't crown you without the proving. He doesn't elevate you without the preparation. Look at David. Scripture says in 1 Samuel 17:34-35 that he told Saul, "Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear." But wait, when did David sign up to fight wild animals? When did he ask for that kind of danger? He was just a shepherd boy trying to protect his sheep. But God was secretly training him to face a giant named Goliath. Your lions and bears weren't accidents, chosen one. They were appointments. Divine appointments disguised as disasters. Think about a caterpillar entering its cocoon. From the outside, it looks like death. The caterpillar disappears completely. It dissolves into nothing but cellular soup. But inside that dark, cramped space, the most incredible transformation in nature is taking place. What looked like an ending was actually the most important beginning. You've been in your cocoon, haven't you? Feeling dissolved, feeling like nothing, feeling forgotten by the world. But God has been reconstructing you on a cellular level. He's been rewiring your faith, rebuilding your character, redesigning your destiny. The caterpillar doesn't fight its way out of the cocoon. It emerges when the transformation is complete. And when it does, it doesn't crawl anymore. It flies. Here's what your enemies don't understand. Here's what the critics missed. Here's what even you didn't realize until right now. The pain you endured wasn't your punishment. It was your promotion process. The rejection you faced wasn't God's rejection. It was God's protection from settling for less than His best. Romans 8:28 declares, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Not some things, all things. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every sleepless night, every tear-soaked pillow, God was weaving it all into something beautiful. But here's the revelation that will change everything for you right now. Are you ready? The truth is, you've already passed the test. That's why you're still here. That's why you're still breathing. That's why you're still believing when believing became the hardest thing in the world. The fact that you didn't become bitter when you had every right to be bitter. You passed. The fact that you didn't curse God when life cursed you. You passed. The fact that you kept praying when your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling. You passed. The fact that you're listening to this message right now instead of giving up completely. You passed. Heaven has been keeping score. And your scorecard reads, faithful, injured, approved. If this truth is resonating in the depths of your soul, I want you to whisper in your heart right now, I passed, I endured, I am still standing. Write it down if you must. Let it be your holy confirmation, because what I'm about to tell you next will explain why God waited until this exact moment, the 2nd of September, to reveal the magnificent plan He's been orchestrating behind the scenes of your life. But first, I need to ask you something that will determine whether you're ready for what's coming. You know what the cruelest lie is that you've been telling yourself? That God forgot about you. That somehow, in the grand scheme of His infinite universe, your name slipped through the cracks. That while others were getting their prayers answered, your cries were falling on deaf ears. Let me shatter that deception right now. Every closed door you faced wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Every person who walked away wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. Every dream that seemed to die wasn't failure, it was preparation for something so much greater that your human mind couldn't even comprehend it at the time. You think you know what suffering looks like? Let me take you back 4,000 years to a 17-year-old boy named Joseph. Favorite son, dreamer, visionary. One day he's wearing his father's coat of many colors. The next he's naked at the bottom of a pit, sold by his own brothers for 20 pieces of silver. Can you imagine that betrayal? Your own flesh and blood counting coins while you scream for mercy from the darkness below. But here's what Joseph didn't know in that pit. And here's what you didn't know in yours. God was positioning him for a palace. Every year of slavery in Potiphar's house, every false accusation, every night in that Egyptian prison wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Because when famine struck the known world, Pharaoh didn't need a dreamer. He needed a deliverer. And you, dear one, you who've walked through your own valleys of betrayal, your own nights of abandonment, what if I told you that every tear you cried was watering seeds you couldn't see? What if every door that slammed shut was protecting you from a path that would have destroyed your destiny? Look at David, the man after God's own heart. You think his story was all victories and psalms? This man spent years hiding in caves, running from King Saul who wanted him dead. Years of eating scraps, sleeping on stone, wondering if the prophet Samuel had made a mistake when he anointed him king. But in those caves, David wasn't just surviving, he was being forged. Every psalm born from pain, every prayer whispered in darkness, every moment of feeling forsaken, it was all preparing him to lead a nation. Because you can't shepherd God's people if you've never been lost yourself. You can't comfort others in their storms if you've never felt the rain. And Moses, 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep after killing an Egyptian in rage. 40 years of thinking he'd blown his chance to deliver his people. 40 years of wondering if God had written him off completely. But at 80 years old, 80, when most people are settling into their rocking chairs, God showed up in a burning bush and said, "Now you're ready." Not at 20 when he had strength. Not at 40 when he had ambition. At 80, when he had wisdom. You want modern proof? Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job because they said she was unfit for television. Steve Jobs was kicked out of Apple, the very company he built from his garage. Colonel Sanders was rejected 1,009 times before someone said yes to his chicken recipe, and he was 65 years old. What if their greatest failures were actually their greatest preparations? And you, sitting there, maybe with grey in your hair, maybe with decades behind you that feel like wasted time, what if I told you that your age isn't your disqualification? What if your years of experience, your battle scars, your hard-won wisdom are exactly what God has been waiting for? You thought you were being overlooked, but heaven was preparing you for weight, not wings, not punishment, preparation. Because anybody can carry a blessing when life is easy, but it takes someone who's been through hell and back to carry a blessing without losing their soul to pride. Every lonely night taught you intimacy with God that crowds could never give you. Every financial struggle showed you that your provision comes from heaven, not human hands. Every health scare reminded you that every breath is a gift, not a guarantee. The enemy tried to convince you that you were forgotten, but God was actually positioning you. Positioning you for influence you never imagined. Positioning you for impact that will outlive your earthly years. Positioning you for a calling so significant that everything you went through was necessary to prepare you to carry it. You weren't punished, beloved. You were prepared. And the proof isn't in what you lost. It's in who you became through the losing. Type in the comments right now, "I wasn't punished. I was prepared." Let that declaration break every chain of self-pity and shame the enemy wrapped around your heart. Because what I'm about to tell you next will revolutionize how you see not just your past, but your future. The season of preparation is ending, and the season of manifestation is about to begin in ways that will leave you breathless with God's goodness. But first, you need to understand something that will change everything about how you pray, how you hope, and how you step into what's coming next. You've been walking through life wondering why you never quite fit in, haven't you? Why conversations feel shallow when your soul craves depth? Why crowded rooms make you feel more alone than an empty house at midnight? Why you can sense things others miss completely, like you're tuned to a frequency the rest of the world can't hear. Dear chosen one, what if I told you that every moment you felt like a misfit was actually God marking you as His? You've been walking with invisible ink on your soul, and today, the 2nd of September, God is holding it up to the light. What you're about to discover will shatter every lie you've believed about being different, being too sensitive, being an outsider looking in. There are 3 undeniable marks that prove you carry heaven's signature, and once you recognize them, you'll never question your purpose again. The first mark: the gift that feels like a curse. You feel everything, don't you? When someone walks into a room carrying pain, it hits you like a freight train. When there's tension between 2 people, you absorb it like a sponge. You've probably been told you're too sensitive so many times you started believing it was a weakness. But listen to me carefully. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's a spiritual superpower. 1 Samuel 16:7 tells us, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." God gave you the ability to see what He sees, the hidden wounds, the secret struggles, the silent cries for help that others walk right past. You think it's coincidence that broken people gravitate toward you, that strangers tell you their deepest secrets within minutes of meeting you? That's not luck, that's divine assignment. Remember when Jesus wept over Jerusalem? He felt the spiritual weight of an entire city's rebellion. When he looked at the rich young ruler, Mark 10:21 says he loved him, meaning he saw beyond the surface to the heart, desperate for truth. That same sensitivity flows through your veins, but here's where it gets shocking. The enemy has been trying to convince you that this gift is destroying you. He whispers that you're too emotional, too deep, too much for this world. Why? Because he knows that when the chosen ones fully embrace their spiritual discernment, they become unstoppable forces for God's kingdom. How many times have you walked away from situations because something in your spirit screamed danger, even when everything looked perfect on the surface? How many times have you been proven right when others called you paranoid? That's not paranoia, that's prophetic insight. The second mark: the innocence magnet. Here's something that will blow your mind. Children and animals see something in you that adults have trained themselves to ignore. Have you ever noticed how a crying baby calms down when you hold them? How dogs that bark at everyone else walk straight up to you with their tails wagging? How children who are shy around strangers light up in your presence? They're not responding to your personality, they're responding to your spiritual frequency. Jesus said in Matthew 18:3, "Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Children and animals operate from pure spiritual instinct. They haven't learned to mask their discernment with logic and social conditioning. When they're drawn to you, it's because they recognize something holy, something untainted, something that reminds them of their Creator. I've seen this countless times. Chosen ones who think they're unremarkable, yet every child in the room ends up in their lap. Every stray dog follows them home. Every wounded soul seeks them out for comfort. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You carry a frequency of safety, of love, of divine peace that the innocent can't resist. And if you've ever wondered why toxic people also seem drawn to you, it's because light exposes darkness, and darkness either runs from light or tries to extinguish it. The third mark: the creative power of heaven. This one will shake you to your core. Your thoughts carry creative power, not positive thinking, not manifestation, divine co-creation with the Almighty. How many times have you thought about someone and they called you that same day? How many times have you imagined a specific outcome and watched it unfold exactly as you pictured? How many times have your prayers been answered in ways so precise it gave you chills? Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." God didn't give you a mind just to think random thoughts. He gave you a mind that can partner with His will to reshape reality. But here's the terrifying part. This power works whether you're conscious of it or not. Every worry you replay is a prayer for what you don't want. Every fear you rehearse is an invitation for what you're trying to avoid. The chosen ones who understand this mark become dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. They stop speaking defeat and start declaring victory. They stop imagining worst-case scenarios and start envisioning God's best-case plans. When you align your thoughts with God's thoughts, when you let His word become your inner dialogue, you become a walking miracle. Isaiah 55:11 promises, "My word will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." When God's words become your thoughts, and your thoughts become your prayers, and your prayers become your reality, you're operating in the fullness of being chosen. The shocking truth about your difference. Here's what will change everything. The very difference that made you feel like an outsider is the mark proving you were set apart. Every time you felt too deep for shallow conversations, that was God protecting you from spiritual contamination. Every time you felt alone in a crowd, that was God creating space for intimate communion with Him. Every time you sensed danger, when others saw opportunity, that was God's Spirit within you providing supernatural protection. You weren't rejected by the world. You were selected by heaven. And now that you recognize these marks, everything changes. You stop apologizing for your sensitivity and start stewarding it as a sacred gift. You stop hiding from your calling and start walking boldly in divine authority. But here's the question that will determine your destiny. What are you going to do with these marks now that you recognize them? Because recognition without activation is just spiritual entertainment. The 2nd of September. Mark this date in your spirit, chosen one, because God Almighty waited until this exact moment to crack open heaven's vault and pour out everything He's been holding back. This isn't coincidence. This isn't chance. This is divine appointment. Listen to me carefully. For decades, maybe your entire life, you've been walking through what felt like endless preparation, endless testing, endless nights wondering when your breakthrough would come. But God has been counting down to this very day, the 2nd of September, the day He planned to tell you everything. You know what breaks my heart? So many of God's chosen ones are sitting in waiting rooms, thinking their time has passed, thinking they missed their moment. But beloved, your moment didn't pass you by. You've been walking toward it your entire life. Here's what heaven wants you to understand. Divine timing isn't human timing. When we pray and nothing seems to happen, we think God is slow. But God isn't slow. He's strategic. He's been orchestrating every detail of your life to align with this singular moment in history, the 2nd of September, 2024. Think about Queen Esther. She was just an orphan girl, raised by her cousin Mordecai, living in exile. She had no idea that every step of her life, the pain of losing her parents, the uncertainty of being chosen as queen, the terror of approaching the king uninvited, all of it was preparation for one crucial moment. When Haman plotted to destroy every Jew in the kingdom, Mordecai spoke words that still echo through eternity. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Such a time as this, not yesterday, not tomorrow. This moment, do you feel it stirring in your spirit right now? That recognition that you weren't born into this generation by accident. You weren't placed in this exact time and location by chance. God positioned you here, now, with everything you've experienced, everything you've survived, everything you've learned, for such a time as this. But here's the part that will shake you to your core. Heaven's windows don't stay open forever. The same God who opens doors can close them. The same God who extends seasons can also end them. And right now, on the 2nd of September, you're standing in a window of divine opportunity that may not come again in your lifetime. I'm going to tell you something that might sound controversial, but I need you to hear it. You have one day to listen, one day to respond. What you do in this moment echoes for years. This isn't about putting pressure on you. This is about awakening you to the weight of this moment. Every prophet in Scripture faced moments where everything hinged on their response to God's call. Moses at the burning bush had to choose. Ignore the voice or step closer. David facing Goliath had to choose. Run with the army or trust the God who had delivered him from the lion and the bear. Right now, you're facing your burning bush moment, your Goliath moment. You're such a time as this moment. For months, maybe years, you've been asking God, when will my breakthrough come? When will you move in my life? And heaven has been responding, I'm preparing the perfect moment. That moment is now, the 2nd of September. Your season of waiting is officially over. The nights of crying out, God, how long? The days of watching others get promoted while you stayed faithful in the background. The seasons of wondering if you heard God correctly when He spoke promises over your life. All of that ends today. Heaven is saying, move now. Not next week when you feel more prepared. Not next month when your circumstances look better. Not next year when you think you'll finally be ready. Now, because divine timing waits for no one, and this window, the 2nd of September, is your appointed time. Here's what I need you to do right now. And I'm not asking. I'm telling you, as someone who has walked with God for decades and seen His timing unfold in miraculous ways. Write the date, the 2nd of September. Write it down. That's not ink on paper. That's your spiritual seal with heaven. That's your signature on the contract God has been preparing for your life. When you write that date, you're saying, yes, God, I recognize this moment. I receive what you're releasing. I step into alignment with your perfect timing for my life. But beloved, let me warn you of something. The enemy knows what the 2nd of September represents for you. He's going to try to distract you. He's going to whisper doubt. This is just another inspirational message. Nothing special is happening. He's going to bring up your past failures, your current circumstances, your age, your limitations. But I need you to remember who you are. You're not just anyone listening to this message. You're the chosen one. God has been preparing for this exact moment. Every trial shaped your character for this. Every disappointment built your faith for this. Every season of waiting positioned you for this. The question isn't whether God is ready to move in your life. The question is whether you're ready to move with Him. Are you ready to stop waiting and start walking into everything God has been preparing for you? You know what breaks my heart? When I meet people who've survived hell on earth, who've been refined in fires that would melt steel, who've stood when everyone else fell, and they still whisper, maybe I'm just meant to struggle forever. Stop. Listen to me, chosen one. God didn't preserve you through the valley of the shadow of death just to leave you there. He didn't carry you through your Red Sea moment so you could build a tent and camp beside still waters. You were saved for elevation. Let me paint you a picture that will change how you see your entire story. There's a young man named Joseph, maybe you've heard of him, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold like cattle, shipped to a foreign land where nobody knew his name. For years, this boy lived under false accusations, locked behind prison walls, forgotten by everyone who promised to remember him. But God wasn't finished. One morning, just one morning, Pharaoh had a dream nobody could interpret, and suddenly the forgotten prisoner became the 2nd most powerful man in all of Egypt in 24 hours. From the prison floor to the palace throne, from forgotten to favored, from outcast to honored. That's not a fairy tale. That's prophecy for your life. You think your comeback will be quiet. You think your breakthrough will whisper. Think again. When God promotes, He doesn't do it in secret boardrooms or hidden corners. When the Almighty decides it's time, the whole world watches. Look at Viola Davis. Raised in poverty so deep she searched through garbage cans for food, living in rat-infested apartments where hope seemed like a luxury she couldn't afford. People counted her out before she even started. Girls like her don't make it, they whispered. She doesn't have the look, the background, the connections, but God had a different script. Today, she's not just successful, she's an Academy Award winner, a voice that commands respect, a presence that stops rooms cold. When she speaks about her journey from welfare to red carpets, from food stamps to standing ovations, even her critics have to admit, only God could have done this. Tyler Perry, homeless, sleeping in his car, rejected by every studio, laughed at by industry insiders who said his vision would never work. For years, he performed to empty theaters, pouring his heart out to rows of vacant seats. The entertainment world labeled him a failure before he even got started, but heaven had Hollywood beat. Now he owns a 330-acre studio lot in Atlanta, bigger than Paramount, Warner Brothers, and Universal Studios combined. When media moguls fly to his studios, when his name appears on their projects, when his empire generates billions, what do you think they say? Only God could have done this. You hearing me, chosen one? Your promotion won't be subtle. Your elevation won't require explanation. When God decides it's your time, the very people who whispered you'd never make it will be the ones announcing your arrival. The doors that stayed locked for decades will swing open so fast it'll make your head spin. The tables will turn with such force that your enemies won't just step aside. They'll step up to applaud. This is biblical precedent. David went from shepherd boy to king, and his coronation wasn't held in secret. Daniel rose from exile to prime minister, and every official in Babylon witnessed his ascension. Esther transformed from orphan to queen, and her influence saved an entire nation. God's promotions are public declarations. But here's what separates those who rise from those who remain. They declared their faith before they saw their future. They spoke their victory while still wearing prison clothes. They praised God for promotions that existed only in promise. That's your test right now. Will you believe for public blessing while you're still in private pain? Will you declare divine promotion while you're still feeling human rejection? Will you prophesy your elevation while you're still surrounded by people who see your current situation and say, impossible? Because I'm telling you something that's about to rock your world. God is about to make your blessing so public, so undeniable, so obviously supernatural, that skeptics will become believers just watching your story unfold. The same people who said you were finished will be asking for your secrets. The same voices that declared you forgotten will be proclaiming your favor. This isn't wishful thinking. This is divine destiny. Your season of hidden preparation is ending. Your time of private testing is complete. God is about to showcase what he's been building in secret, and when he unveils his masterpiece, you, the world, won't be able to look away. Say this with me right now. The blessing will be public. I will rise for God's glory. Say it louder. The blessing will be public. I will rise for God's glory. Because, chosen one, your Joseph moment is coming. Your palace is prepared. Your promotion is signed, sealed, and about to be delivered. Are you ready to rise? Let me tell you something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about your age, your season, your worth. The enemy wants you to think your best days are behind you. He wants you to believe that because you've hit 60, 70, 80 years old, your mission is over. That you should just sit back, fade into the background, and wait for heaven. That is a demonic deception. Dear chosen one, look at me. Your prayers aren't echoes fading into nothingness. Your scars aren't just reminders of what you survived. Your wisdom isn't outdated knowledge gathering dust. Every tear you've cried, every battle you've fought, every lesson you've learned, God has been collecting it all like precious gold, refining it, preparing it for this moment. The psalmist understood something most people miss. In Psalm 92:14, he declares, "They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Not they used to bear fruit. Not they might bear fruit if they're lucky. They will still bear fruit in old age." Why? Because God's calling on your life doesn't come with an expiration date. But here's what breaks my heart. I watch seniors, warriors who've walked with God for decades, shuffle into church pews thinking they're just spectators now. Thinking their time to make a difference has passed. Thinking they're too old, too tired, too forgotten. Stop it. Just stop it right now. You know what God sees when he looks at you? He sees Anna the prophetess, who at 84 years old became the first person to proclaim Jesus as the Messiah in the temple. He sees Caleb, who at 85 said, "Give me this mountain," and conquered giants that terrified men half his age. He sees Grandma Moses, who didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 78 years old. The art world laughed, critics mocked, but she painted anyway. And by the time she died at 101, her works were hanging in museums around the world. Her most celebrated pieces, created when she was over 80. He sees Colonel Sanders, broke and living on Social Security at 65, driving around in a beat-up car trying to sell his chicken recipe, rejected over 1,000 times. But he didn't quit. He built Kentucky Fried Chicken into a global empire after most people retire. What if your greatest masterpiece is still inside you, waiting to be born? Listen to me carefully. The world is drowning in noise right now. Young voices everywhere, screaming for attention, desperate to be heard. But you know what's missing? Wisdom, authority, the deep, unshakable voice of someone who's walked with God through decades of fire and came out pure gold. Your grandchildren don't need another influencer. They need your prayers covering them like armor. Your community doesn't need another motivational speaker. They need your weathered hands and battle-tested faith, showing them what real strength looks like. That young mum falling apart at the grocery store, she needs to see how you've raised 5 kids without losing your mind. That businessman facing bankruptcy, he needs to hear how you've lost everything twice and God restored it both times. That teenager cutting herself in bathroom stalls, she needs your story of how Jesus found you in your darkest hour. You are not retired from the army of God. You are a general. But here's the shocking truth that's going to change everything. Ready? Your most fruitful season isn't behind you. It's being born right now. Everything you've been through, every heartbreak, every victory, every midnight prayer, every tear, every triumph, it was all preparation for what God wants to do through you right now. The wisdom in your bones, that's not age talking. That's the Holy Spirit who's had decades to mature in you like fine wine. The peace in your eyes, that's not resignation. That's the unshakable confidence of someone who knows God's faithfulness firsthand. Stop acting like you're winding down. You're just getting started. God didn't keep you alive this long to be a museum piece. He preserved you through every storm, every sickness, every loss, because He has something specific for you to do. Something only you can accomplish. Something that requires every scar, every lesson, every year of walking with Him. The question isn't whether you're too old. The question is, are you brave enough to believe that God still has mountains for you to move? Because I'm telling you right now, chosen one, the world is about to witness what happens when decades of accumulated faith finally gets unleashed. And it's going to be magnificent. But first, you have to stop believing the lie that your season is over. Because your season, it's just beginning. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to understand something that's about to change everything you thought you knew about your story. The waiting is over. Your name has already been spoken in places you haven't entered yet. Rooms you've never seen have conversations about you. Doors you didn't even know existed are already swinging open. Heaven has been preparing your arrival while you were still wondering if you were forgotten. But I know what you're thinking. I've heard this before. I've waited so long that hope feels dangerous. I know you've been burned by promises that seem to evaporate. I know you've stood at the edge of breakthrough so many times that your faith feels bruised and tender. Here's what you need to understand about God's timing. When Joshua and the Israelites stood before the walls of Jericho, those walls had stood for centuries. Massive, impenetrable, mocking every army that dared to challenge them. For 6 days, they marched around those walls, looking foolish, looking defeated before the battle even began. Can you imagine what they felt on day 3, day 5, when nothing had changed and their enemies were laughing from the walls above? But on the 7th day, everything shifted. Joshua 6:20 tells us, "When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed." Not cracked, not weakened, collapsed. Chosen one, this is your 7th day. I don't care if you're 65 and feel like your time has passed. I don't care if you're 75 and the world has written you off. I don't care if you're 85 and people treat you like your story is over. This is your 7th day. Those walls you've been staring at, the walls of limitation, the walls of too late, the walls of you missed your chance. They're not just cracking, they're trembling. Your health that the doctors said wouldn't improve, those walls are trembling. Your finances that seemed permanently broken, those walls are trembling. Your family relationships that felt beyond repair, those walls are trembling. Your dreams that you buried under decades of disappointment, those walls are trembling. God didn't keep you alive through everything you survived just to let you die with your music still inside you. He didn't preserve you through heart attacks, through loss, through betrayal, through seasons when you wanted to give up, just so you could fade quietly into the background. Number. You are not a footnote in someone else's story. You are not a supporting character in a drama where everyone else gets the breakthrough. You are the main character in a divine narrative that heaven has been writing for decades. And right now, the 2nd of September, this very moment, the author of your story is picking up his pen to write the most magnificent chapter you've ever lived. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. You've been tested, you've been refined, you've been proven. And now God is about to trust you with something so powerful, so significant, that it required every single year of preparation you've walked through. The walls are falling now. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere around you, that stirring in your spirit that whispers, something is different. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of supernatural intervention crashing into your natural circumstances. Your destiny is unlocking at a speed that will leave your past in the dust. Opportunities are about to chase you down. Favor is about to hunt you down. Healing is about to find you whether you're looking for it or not. This is your moment to decide. If your spirit knows, if something inside you is confirming that this is your word, stop everything and type it right now. No more delay. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. Let heaven hear your declaration. And if you're still sitting there, if doubt is trying to steal this moment, I need you to stand up right where you are. Lift your hand to heaven. Look up and declare with everything inside you, I receive everything God has for me now. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your breakthrough depends on it. Because it does. And before you go, before this moment passes, share this message with someone who needs to know their waiting wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Someone whose walls are about to fall. Someone whose 7th day has arrived. Your comeback starts now. The walls are falling. Your time is here. Everything changes today. Dear friend, I see you there. Maybe you're 75, 80, maybe even 90 years old, and there's a weight pressing down on your chest that you can't shake. You look back at decades that feel like they vanished into thin air. You whisper to yourself in the quiet of your bedroom, where did the time go? What do I have to show for it? You watch younger people chasing dreams while you're counting doctor appointments instead of opportunities. The mirror shows you wrinkles where ambition used to live. Your hands shake now where they once built, created, fought for everything that mattered. And somewhere in the depths of your soul, a voice whispers the cruelest lie of all. It's too late. Your time is over. But what if I told you that voice is a liar from the pit of hell itself? Listen to me carefully. Every single year you think was wasted, every season you felt invisible, every decade you believed you were just surviving, God was working. Not someday, not eventually. Right then, in the silence, in the waiting, in the moments when you felt most forgotten. You want proof? Let me shake your world with truth so powerful, it will rewrite how you see every gray hair on your head. Moses, the man who would part the Red Sea and lead millions to freedom, didn't even start his calling until he was 80 years old. 80. When most people today are settling into retirement homes, Moses was stepping into his destiny. For 40 years in the wilderness, he probably thought he was finished, washed up. A has been with blood on his hands and sand in his shoes, but God was preparing him in the quiet. Abraham, the father of nations, the man whose offspring would outnumber the stars, was 100 years old when Isaac was born. 100. Sarah laughed when God promised her a child because she was 90. 90 years old, and God said, "Now we begin." You think your silent years were wasted. Abraham's wasted decades produced every blessing we walk in today. But here's what will stop your heart. Right now, as I speak these words, you are like a winter tree. Look outside your window at those bare branches, stripped of every leaf, looking dead to anyone who doesn't understand seasons. The world sees death. God sees preparation. Because beneath that weathered bark, life is stirring. Sap is rising. Every root has been growing deeper, stronger, more resilient through the cold. That tree isn't dying. It's getting ready to explode with more life than it's ever carried. That's you. Every disappointment drove your roots deeper into faith. Every loss taught you what really matters. Every year you felt forgotten was actually God strengthening you for something so big, so beautiful, so beyond your imagination that you needed decades of preparation just to carry it. Your silent years were not wasted years. They were womb years. Heaven was carrying you, nurturing you, protecting you, waiting for this exact moment, the 2nd of September, to birth something unprecedented through your life. Do you feel that stirring in your chest right now? That flutter of possibility you thought died years ago? That's not nostalgia, my friend. That's prophecy. That's God whispering, "We're just getting started." The enemy wants you to believe your story is ending. But God is saying your story is just beginning. Not the epilogue, the main event. Not the sunset, the sunrise. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle is evidence you survived what would have destroyed others. Every slow step you take carries more authority than the running feet of those who've never been tested by time. Right now, whisper these words aloud. I don't care who's listening. Whisper them with the faith of Moses at 80 and the hope of Abraham at 100. My time is not over. It is beginning. Say it again, stronger this time. My time is not over. It is beginning. Now write those exact words in the comments below. Not for me, not for anyone else. Write them as your testimony to heaven and earth, that you refuse to let age steal what God has been saving for this season. Because what I'm about to tell you next will prove that everything, and I mean everything, has been preparing you for the most important chapter of your entire life. Type "My time is not over." It is beginning if you feel destiny stirring in your bones right now. You want to know something that will blow your mind wide open? Every single thing that broke you, every betrayal, every door that slammed in your face, every person who walked away when you needed them most, wasn't random chaos. It was divine choreography. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. While you were drowning in confusion, asking, "Why me? Why now? Why this pain?" God was moving pieces on a board you couldn't even see. Every setback was a setup. Every loss was positioning you for something so magnificent that if you had received it before you were ready, it would have destroyed you instead of blessed you. Think about Joseph, 17 years old, dreaming dreams that seemed impossible. His own brothers, his own flesh and blood, threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. Can you imagine that betrayal? Your own family trafficking you like livestock because they couldn't stand the favor on your life. Then Potiphar's wife falsely accuses him, and he's thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit. For 13 years, Joseph sat in darkness. 13 years of wondering if God had forgotten his name. 13 years of watching guilty men walk free while he rotted behind bars for doing what was right. But here's what Joseph couldn't see. Every single day in that prison was preparation for ruling Egypt. Every injustice was building character that could handle power without corruption. Every lonely night was forging wisdom that would save nations from famine. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Look at Esther, a Jewish orphan girl, parents dead, living in exile in a foreign land. She's ripped from everything familiar, forced into a beauty contest she never asked for, married to a king who doesn't even know her real identity. For years, she lived hidden, silent, invisible, but God was positioning her for one moment, one decision that would save her entire people from genocide. If she had been queen earlier, if the timing had been different, millions would have died. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And David, anointed to be king as a teenager, then spent the next 15 years running for his life, living in caves like an animal, his best friend's father trying to murder him with a spear, sleeping on rocks, eating scraps, wondering if the prophet Samuel had made a mistake. But every cave was a classroom. Every night of fear was building faith that could slay giants. Every moment of abandonment was creating intimacy with God that would write the Psalms. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. Now let me get personal with you. That marriage that fell apart, you thought it would kill you, didn't you? You thought you'd never recover. But what if that person was never meant to be your destiny? What if God saw they would drain your calling, dim your light, pull you away from your purpose? What if their leaving wasn't punishment but protection? That job you got fired from, the one that crushed your self-worth, made you question everything about yourself. What if staying there would have kept you small, kept you comfortable, kept you from the courage you'd need for what's coming next? What if that pink slip was actually your promotion papers written by heaven? That child who won't speak to you anymore? I know that pain cuts deeper than any knife. You replay every conversation, wondering what you did wrong. But what if their rejection is protecting your peace? What if God is using this season of separation to heal generational wounds, to break cycles, to position both of you for restoration that's deeper than what you lost? Those friends who ghosted you when you needed them most, yes, it felt like death. But what if they were seasonal people trying to become lifetime fixtures? What if God cleared them out because He's about to surround you with connections that will actually water your dreams instead of drain them? Like a master chess player, every delay was a move positioning you for victory. Every closed door was God saying, "Not that way, this way." Every betrayal was Him removing people who would have sabotaged your destiny. Every financial struggle was teaching you to trust His provision before He opens the floodgates. You see, God doesn't operate on your timeline. He operates on perfect timing. And perfect timing isn't about what feels good to you. It's about what's best for you. It's about you being ready to handle what you've been asking for without losing yourself in the process. The very losses you cried over were the hands of God shifting the board, that diagnosis that terrified you. It's building compassion in you that will heal others, that bankruptcy that embarrassed you. It's creating wisdom that will make you wealthy in ways money can't touch. That season of loneliness that nearly broke you. It's developing an intimacy with God that will sustain you through anything. Right now, at this very moment, pieces are moving on your behalf that you can't see. Phone calls are being made about opportunities with your name on them. Hearts are being softened toward you by people who don't even understand why. Resources are being shifted into position for your breakthrough. Doors are being unlocked that have been sealed for decades. But here's what I need you to understand. The hand of God has been on you this entire time, even when it felt like He was silent, even when it felt like He had abandoned you. Even when everyone else got their miracle and you're still waiting for yours, His hand never left you. His eyes never stopped watching. His love never wavered. So I have to ask you this. If God has been orchestrating everything, even the painful parts, to position you for something extraordinary, what are you going to do when that breakthrough finally arrives? You want to know the real truth about why you're still here? Let me tell you something that will cut straight through to your soul. You survived because God needed living proof that his chosen ones don't break. Think back to that moment when you were flat on your back, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if tomorrow was even worth seeing. Remember when the doctor's report made your blood run cold, when the bills piled higher than your hope, when depression wrapped around your throat like a noose and squeezed until you could barely breathe? Remember when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the broken person staring back at you? You were in the furnace, dear one. And let me tell you something about furnaces. They don't turn up the heat to destroy what's inside. They turn up the heat to forge something unbreakable. The hotter the flame, the stronger the steel. And God knew exactly how much heat you could handle before he pulled you out. You think Job had it easy? This man lost everything in a single day. His children, his wealth, his health, gone. His own wife told him to curse God and die. But Job looked up from his ash heap and declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." And what happened? God gave him double his flocks, double his wealth, double his years. The man who endured the deepest pit received the highest blessing. Daniel was thrown into a den of hungry lions for refusing to bow down. The king himself expected to find bones in the morning. But when they rolled away that stone, Daniel walked out without a scratch. Not because the lions weren't real, not because the threat wasn't deadly, but because when you belong to the Most High God, even the mouths of lions become your protection. You've been in your own lion's den, haven't you? Maybe it was the ICU when they said you wouldn't make it through the night. Maybe it was that courtroom when everything hung in the balance. Maybe it was that empty bank account when you didn't know how you'd feed your family. But you're still here, still breathing, still standing. And I want you to understand something that will change how you see every scar, every gray hair, every wrinkle on your beautiful face. Those aren't marks of defeat. Those are medals of honor. Those are proof that you went to war with hell itself and came back victorious. You didn't quit on God, and God didn't quit on you. Say it with me now. God didn't quit on me. Again, Lude, God didn't quit on me. One more time, until it reaches your bones. God didn't quit on me. There were nights when you cried until you had no tears left, when you prayed prayers that felt like they bounced off the ceiling, when you questioned everything you thought you knew about faith. But even in your doubt, even in your anger, even when you shook your fist at heaven, you didn't walk away. You stayed at the altar when everyone else went home. You kept believing when believing felt like insanity. Do you realize what that makes you? Do you understand the weight of what you've accomplished? You passed the final test. Not because you never fell down, not because you never questioned, not because you handled it all with perfect grace. You passed because when quitting would have been easier, you chose to stay. When walking away would have made sense to everyone else, you planted your feet and declared, "I'm not moving until I get my blessing." The enemy threw everything at you. Sickness, poverty, betrayal, loss. He whispered lies in your ear. God has forgotten you. You're too broken. You've made too many mistakes. It's too late for you. But you're still here, which means those were lies from the pit of hell. You survived what was designed to destroy you. You outlasted storms that buried stronger people. You kept your faith when your circumstances screamed there was nothing left to believe in. And now God is looking at you the way a proud father looks at his child who just graduated from the hardest school on earth. You passed, chosen one, not because you were perfect, but because you endured. Not because you never stumbled, but because you always got back up. Not because it was easy, but because you were faithful when faithfulness cost you everything. The test is over. The furnace has cooled. The lion's den has been unlocked. And you're walking out, not just alive, but transformed. You're walking out, not just survived, but sanctified. You're walking out carrying the authority of someone who has been to hell and back and lived to tell about it. But here's what you need to understand as we move forward. This wasn't just about your survival. This was about your preparation. Because what God has waiting for you next requires someone who has been tested by fire and proven unbreakable. Are you ready to discover what all that pain was preparing you to carry? Chosen one, I need you to understand something that's about to rock your world. For years, you've been walking through life thinking you were invisible, thinking your struggles didn't matter, thinking maybe God had forgotten your address. But here's what's been happening in the heavens while you were down here questioning everything. Your name has been echoing in rooms you've never stepped foot in. Listen to me carefully. Right now, as I speak these words, there are opportunities with your name written on them, sitting on desks you've never seen. There are doors marked, reserved with your fingerprint on the handle. There are conversations happening in boardrooms, in churches, in places of influence where someone is saying, "We need someone like," and they're describing exactly who you are. You think that's coincidence? That's prophecy in motion. Isaiah 22:22 says, "I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open." Your key is being positioned right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. But here's what breaks my heart, and I need you to hear this with your whole soul. Some of you are still walking around with your head down, apologizing for taking up space, shrinking back when God is about to make you undeniable. You're worried about what people will think when heaven starts moving on your behalf. Let me tell you something that'll shake you to your core. Your blessing is about to become so public, so undeniable, that even your doubters will have to admit only God could have orchestrated it. Think about Joseph for a moment. One day he's rotting in prison, forgotten, written off. The next day, literally overnight, he's second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. Pharaoh didn't promote him because of his resume. Heaven moved so dramatically that a pagan king had to say, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" That's your story unfolding right now. The curtain is rising on a play that's been rehearsing in secret for decades. You've been in the backstage of blessing, thinking the show was cancelled. But God has been orchestrating every scene, every costume change, every lighting cue. And now, it's showtime. Your enemies thought they were writing your obituary, but they were actually writing your introduction. Every betrayal was positioning you. Every rejection was redirection. Every closed door was heaven saying, "Not that one, I have something better prepared." But I need to ask you a question that'll cut right through any remaining doubt in your heart. Are you ready to stop hiding? Because what's coming won't let you blend into the background anymore. The blessing God is about to release over your life will be so evident, so public, so undeniable that people will stop you in grocery stores just to ask, "What happened to you?" You look different. You carry yourself different. There's something about you, and you'll know exactly what to tell them. Deuteronomy 28:10 declares, "Then all the peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you." Not fear you personally, but fear the God whose power is radiating through your life so powerfully it can't be denied. Your promotion isn't coming in whispers, it's coming with trumpets. Your breakthrough isn't arriving quietly, it's coming with such force that even the skeptics will have to bow and say, "Only God." This is your movie moment. This is where the music swells, where the lights come up, where everyone in the theater realizes they've been watching a masterpiece unfold. Every tragedy, every plot twist, every moment when you thought the story was over, it was all leading to this crescendo. But here's what I need from you right now. Stop rehearsing for small stages. Stop preparing speeches for empty rooms. Stop practicing your gifts in the mirror when God is about to put you under spotlights you never dreamed existed. Your time of being hidden is over. Lift your hand where you are, right there in your living room, in your car, wherever you're receiving this word, and declare this with every fiber of your being. My blessing will be visible. My God will be undeniable. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your future depends on it, because it does. Your coronation ceremony is about to begin. and the whole world has been invited to witness what heaven does when it decides to show off through one of its chosen ones. My dear chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to remember 3 unshakable truths that will carry you through whatever lies ahead. First, your survival was never an accident. Every storm you weathered, every mountain you climbed, every valley you walked through, it was all divine preparation for this moment of recognition. You didn't just endure, you were being refined like gold in the fire, and now heaven is ready to reveal what you've become. Second, the waiting is over. God's timing isn't late, it's perfect. The 2nd of September wasn't chosen randomly for this message to find you. This is your divine appointment, your moment of awakening to a truth that changes everything. You are not forgotten, you are not forsaken, and you are certainly not finished. Third, your blessing will not come quietly. It will arrive with such undeniable force that even your doubters will have no choice but to acknowledge that only God could have orchestrated such a turnaround in your life. But I want you to know something from the depths of my heart. You are not walking this journey alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea for Moses, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who raised Jesus from the dead, that same mighty God is working in your life right now. Even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it, He is moving mountains on your behalf. And there's something beautiful about this community we've built together. Look around in these comments. Thousands of souls who understand your struggle, who've walked similar paths, who are ready to stand with you in prayer and encouragement. You have family here. You have warriors here who will lift you up when your arms get tired. Let me ask you this. What would change in your life if you truly believed, not just hoped, but believed, that God's best for you is still coming? Take a moment to think about that, because your answer reveals everything about where you're going from here. Before you leave this sacred space, would you do something for me? Drop a comment below and tell us one thing you're trusting God for. Share your heart. Ask for prayer. Let this community surround you with love and intercession. And if this message stirred something deep in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. Sometimes we become the answer to someone else's prayer simply by sharing hope. If you found strength here today, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're building something special. A family of chosen ones who refuse to walk in darkness when we were created for light. Now, before we part ways, let me pray over you with the authority that comes from years of watching God move in impossible situations. Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them right where they are, some in their living rooms, some in their cars, some lying in bed at 2 a.m., wondering if hope is just a word. God, I ask you to reach through this screen and touch their hearts with your presence. For those who are weary, I pray for supernatural strength. For those who are confused, I pray for divine clarity. For those who feel forgotten, remind them that their names are written on the palms of your hands. For those who are afraid, replace their fear with unshakable faith. Lord, open doors that no man can shut. Provide opportunities that leave no doubt. You are the source. Heal what's been broken, restore what's been lost, accelerate what's been delayed, and let your favor rest upon them so powerfully that their comeback becomes undeniable evidence of your goodness. Give them sleep tonight that restores. Give them dreams that encourage. Give them morning mercies that remind them you're not finished with their story. And when doubt whispers, let your love shout louder. In the mighty name of Jesus, the name above every name, I declare breakthrough, blessing, and divine alignment over every life represented here. What you've begun, you will complete. What you've promised, you will perform. And what you've planted in them will bloom in your perfect timing. Watch over them, keep them, and let your face shine upon them. May they walk in the confidence that comes from knowing they are chosen, they are loved, and their best days are not behind them, they're ahead. In Jesus' Name, Amen. Go in peace, my friend. Your story is far from over.